Um, and you know, I'm tired of saying I never thought we'd be here today. I mean, we've all heard that on other calls too. I remember Tony used to say that. We never thought we'd be here now. I get that. That was years ago. Here we are, August 22nd in 2017, the day after the full total eclipse of the sun. And, you know, I have to say, guys, I didn't think it was going to be something we'd wait right now in the mix. Um, and you know, I'm tired of saying I never thought we'd be here today. I mean, we've all heard that on other calls too. I remember Tony used to say that. We never thought we'd be here now. I get that. That was years ago. Here we are, August 22nd in 2017, the day after the full total eclipse of the sun. And, you know, I have to say, guys, I didn't think it was going to be something we'd wait for until after the total eclipse of the sun. The symbolism of the eclipse, the idea of the darkness obscuring the light, and then light overtaking the darkness, even though it was only a matter of hours, 2 hours and 30 or 40 minutes across the country. It was the symbolism of it, you know, taking the light and overshadowing the darkness. Anytime there is light, it will dispel the darkness. And that's what we had. That's symbolic of where we are. I thought, as many of you thought and had read, that that was going to be it. That was going to be our go time. By midnight last night, even, I've heard it said. And I was one that believed that as well. I really thought we would be there, and this call would not be necessary. I really did believe that. Since then, I've heard some other things today that sort of explains maybe why we're still here. Maybe it doesn't explain it, but it helps to give us some information as to maybe why it hasn't occurred yet. I would say this. We usually start with Iraq and what's going on there because we know that we needed for Iraq to revalue their rate, to essentially be in their new lower denominations and so on, and to put out a rate before we essentially, at least we thought this, before we started, before we were notified so that we could begin our exchanges. We know exchanges have gone on in the United States for a while now, but yet by and large, the vast majority of us as the internet group, part of the public, the internet group, has not been notified. And it's hard to know exactly why that is right now, to be honest with you. And by the way, I'm always honest with you. It's just a silly expression that we tend to use. But let me say this. Let's go back to where Iraq is and what's going on. We have heard that Iraq revalued, if you will use that term, revalued last Thursday, starting last Thursday. We've heard that they may have requested in their constitution a 24 to 48 hour period before their rate needed to be put out publicly. We heard that they asked for another 24 hours, which would have given them 72 hours before that rate would have been published. And as far as I know, with the math that I know, that would have taken them through Sunday night, which means we should have had this thing by, let's say, Sunday night, Monday morning. Didn't happen. Okay? Now, what's happened in Iraq since that time? Well, we know one thing. We know people with key cards that are the new global MasterCards that have 2 chips in them, that are the new cards that have been put out in the last month or so in Iraq, that have come to citizens that are dual citizens, even in the United States and other countries around the world. Those cards are active. Those cards are live. They have the new rate in them. Okay? In other words, they have access to their funds through those cards internationally. Did that suffice as an international announcement? I don't think so, really, but I know it's international. I know that let's talk about this. Oh, and by the way, the rates are that high rate that we talked about on the last couple of weeks of calls. They are well over the 16, not well over, somewhat over the $16 rate that should be brought to the International Chamber of Commerce as a potential rate that the dinar could support back in 2012. Talked about that. So yes, it is in excess of that. Now, let me say this. What else is happening in Iraq? You know that region that's sort of between Syria and Iraq, that little area with a couple of different provinces there, sort of on the border. That area was the last area to get 79 ATM machines online. Did they have the electricity to do it? Yes. Did they have the fiber optic to connect to that area? Not until yesterday morning. Possibly the night before, but we're going to call it yesterday morning when I found out about it. Yes, the fiber optic was hooked up. All ATMs in Iraq are now functional. What does that mean? That means the citizens of Iraq are getting out lower denominations of their currency. They're brand new. They have never seen those before until the last few days, and they're getting those out all over the country. Now, what else needs to be done in Iraq for us to realize that the RV has taken place in Iraq? They've got a new rate. They've got new lower denominations out and being used. They've got new coins called fills at the banks. I mean, they have everything. Now, tomorrow is Wednesday. Will the Iraqi dinar rate and the new budget be put in the Gazette, which comes out Saturdays and Wednesdays? Will that occur tomorrow? It didn't happen last Saturday like I thought it would, like I hoped it would. But it apparently, it should be in tomorrow's Gazette. When does it come out? It comes out pretty close to 7:30 in the morning, Iraq time, in that vicinity, by the Iraqi people that have told me this. All right? Well, 7:30 is what? 12:30 a.m. New York time, just after midnight. Now, does that mean that maybe something might happen at that time, or we're aware of it shortly after that time frame, or in that midnight to 1 a.m. time frame? That's what I'm hoping. That's what I would hope for. If this thing gets published in the Gazette, and why wouldn't it? They've got it already out, unless there's some force that's holding this thing up any further, if it's not proceeding according to plan, which it should be. Guys, I'm hearing from sources outside of this country in major bank institutions that the GCR is live everywhere but right here. Now, in other parts of the globe, in other parts of the world, they are exchanging. Yeah. I know we had incredible resistance to this in this country through the last administration. We had time and time again where executive orders were issued not to let this go under the previous administration. But under this administration, those have been countermanded. And my understanding is that there is every reason to believe that the intention of the new president and administration is to do this and to let this go. So, is there still resistance keeping this from us? We'll know in a day or so, I would say. We'll know. And I would say that with everything that's happening in this country now, we need this to take place. We have people we need to help in this country. We have the situation where we need to rebuild this country, and we intend to do that. I mean, just the big call listeners alone could single-handedly rebuild this country with the assets coming from this blessing without even, we could do that standing on our heads, guys. We know that. We know the numbers. We know the value, if you've been paying attention at all, you know the value of these currencies, especially the Zim. Listen, I was told yesterday you would be able to negotiate the Zim well above, this was the wording, well above the non-NDA rate for the Zim, well above. Now, are you going to get a sovereign rate? No. Are you going to get a rate that is higher than the screen rate? Yes. Is the screen rate high? High enough. But are you going to get a rate that might really, really be significant for doing humanitarian projects? Yes. If you negotiate that, and if you let them know the projects that you have in mind, and if you don't have a major project that you're a part of, I'm telling you, if you want to piggyback on Rebuild America, I'd love to have you. I really would love to do it and partner with you guys all over this country. I mean, I think it'd be the coolest thing in the world to see our new website light up where I have maps of the United States, and I'll do a global map too, but a map of the United States with lights that illuminate for each city as its difference to rebuild. And yet, look at those, communicate about it. You're going to be able to blog about it. You'll be able to bring cool, efficient housing with schools, with recreation, individually, to keep your own communications intact.